Welcome to some of the most exciting motocross racing you'll see anywhere at any time. It's a look back at the 1992 AMA Grand National Championship Motocross Series. We'll begin our coverage where it all began in March of 1992. Gatorback Raceway, Gainesville, Florida. The opening round of the 125cc National Championship Series. Let's start with a look at some of the contenders expected to do well in the series. First up, Team Suzuki's Guy Cooper. A former 125cc national champion, he won that honor in 1990. From Stillwater, Oklahoma, Cooper is one of the most popular riders ever to ride the sport of motocross. Next up, Team Kawasaki's Mike LaRocco. He's never won a national championship, has 3 125 national wins. He's one of the favorites to win this crown. Yamaha's top entry, Jeff Emig from Grand Terrace, California. AMA Amateur National Champion. He's looking for his first ever national victory. Here's another Team Suzuki rider expected to do well. He's campaigned the 250cc series and won nationals there, but never in the 125 class. That's Larry Ward. Now let's listen to who the riders think will be tough in the 125 class.
The main competition's Brian Swink. He seems to be really going good, all the testing and stuff. And Mike LaRocco did good last year, but this year, riding in practice, his bike doesn't seem as fast as Suzuki's. So
that's Cooper's opinion. Mike LaRocco would not agree.
You know, we got a real good running bike, so, hopefully there won't be any difference at all. Hopefully I can run up there in front and, stay up there.
Preseason picks will have to go to LaRocco and Cooper. Let's go to the first moto, Gainesville, Florida, the first race of the season, and see how it shakes down. Fastest rider out of the gate of the huge field of 40 riders headed toward corner number 1 was Ron Tishner from nearby Palm Harbor, Florida, aboard a tough racing Suzuki. He was followed by Cooper, then Mike LaRocco. Cooper wasted no time in going after Tishner. Mike LaRocco, meanwhile, in the number 3 position, was studying the lines of both riders. Both LaRocco and Cooper got around Ron Tishner, then they waged their own battle for the number 1 position. LaRocco would make a pass attempt. Cooper would fend him off. Tishner holding on to the number 3 slot, still in it, and waiting for one of those 2 riders to make a mistake so that he could pounce. Here's another look at that pass attempt. Mike LaRocco went to the outside of Cooper. That set Cooper up for the good line, the inside line after that double jump to hold on to the number 1 position. Now watch how close Ron Tishner is to that pair of riders. He's just hanging tough, looking for some running room. He almost found it there, but LaRocco held on to the number 2 position. That's the way moto number 1 went. The 2 riders out front pounding each other. Their old rivals, Guy Cooper, at 30 years of age, is the veteran of the 125cc class. Mike LaRocco, one of the younger riders coming up, looking for stardom. Cooper, a 125cc champion just 1 year ago, hoping to regain those honors, but here comes Mike LaRocco, says I'm not impressed with those credentials. It only matters what happens here in 1992. He made the pass to take over the number 1 position that shoved Cooper back to 2nd slot, and it was still Ron Tishner holding tough in 3rd. Now Mike LaRocco's hold on that number 1 position is going to be short-lived. Watch the pass that Cooper makes on LaRocco. LaRocco tries to head him off, but Cooper had the drive. He made the pass, while LaRocco sits back and wonders what happened. Now we're headed for the white flag in the last lap, and watch this. 2 riders drop into that gully. Only 1 comes out. That's Mike LaRocco. Last lap, Guy Cooper crashed, throwing the number 1 spot away. He would get up unharmed and would finish in the number 3 position. So LaRocco wins it, followed by Tishner, Cooper, Lusk, and McGrath. Let's take a look at that forced pass from moto number 1. Well, I tell you that in the 2nd moto, Doug Henry did the winning. Mike LaRocco was 2nd. Guy Cooper was 3rd. 4th place went to Brian Swink, with Ron Tishner rounding out the top 5. She says, what's it mean? Well, I'll tell you. In the point standings, it put LaRocco on top, Cooper 2nd, Tishner 3rd, Henry 4th, and Jeremy McGrath in 5th place. That's after 1 round of the 125cc National Championship Series. 10 more to go, and we'll go to round 2 in Southwick, Massachusetts. Motocross 338 is the name of the park. First moto action, the lone rider way out front. He has it all under control as Guy Cooper, or does he? Cooper gets a little bit sideways. He kept the power on. Unfortunately, that kind of drilled him face first into the ground. They call that taking a soil sample. Let's go back and take another look at Guy Cooper from Stillwater, Oklahoma in action. Comes off that jump a little bit sideways, lost all control of the motorcycle, and limps back to his bike. Cooper not a happy camper at that point. He would be passed by several riders, and in that moto would ultimately finish in the number 6 position. We'll pick up the action in the second moto. Let me tell you quickly, though, that Jeremy McGrath was the winner of the opening moto, followed by Doug Henry. Ron Chishner was third. Larry Ward was fourth. Here in moto number 2 as the field heads for the first couple of corners to sort themselves out. Note the condition of the track. Very rough. It's choppy. The lines change on almost every lap and in virtually every corner. A very soft, sandy condition. It's noted as being one of the toughest racetracks in the United States. Notice, too, the elevation changes. That's Larry Ward, rider number 10, holding down the number 1 position. He's followed closely by Mike LaRocco, rider number 7. You had just a quick glimpse of the rider in third. That was Ron Chishner. At each stop on the National Championship circuit, as we watch the action between Larry Ward and Mike LaRocco in the number 2 slot, there are 2 motos or individual races. In each moto, riders are awarded points according to the way they finish. The rider that finishes in the number 1 position gets 25. The rider that finishes second would be 22 points. And in third place, 20. Fourth place gets 18. Fifth place gets 16. And from that point on, it drops in 1-point increments. The points from both motos or races are totaled together. The rider with the highest number of points then becomes the day's overall winner. There are no extra points awarded for that honor. However, that's the way the factory and the clothing suppliers pay the contingencies to the rider. And as the season progresses, the points earned at individual race outings, combining those 2 motos again, are the points that determine the national champion. And right now, Larry Ward, followed by Mike LaRocco and Ron Chishner, are looking for their share. LaRocco went wide. Chishner makes the pass in that soft sand, and he takes over the number 2 position. Sets his sight now on Larry Ward, who has been error-free in this, the second moto in Southwick, Massachusetts. We'll go back and take a look at that pass and watch how the soft sand comes into play. LaRocco gets just a little bit out of his groove. No way that he can pull it back. The sand carried him to the outside of that big sweeping high bank berm, and Ron Chishner was able to take advantage, use the good line to cut to the inside. He takes over the number 2 position. Chishner and Larry Ward, both former factory riders for Team Suzuki. Larry Ward in 1992, receiving some assistance from Suzuki. It's a support type program, not a full factory ride, close to it. And Ron Chishner finding a home with tough racing. Toward the end of moto number 2, Mike LaRocco regained the number 2 position. That dropped Chishner back to third. Here's the way the overall results look. Ward, Chishner, Henry, McGrath, and LaRocco. That's after combining the points for both motos. And after 2 rounds of the 125cc series, the point standings look like this. LaRocco, Chishner, Henry, McGrath, Cooper, and Emig tied for 5th. Let's go to round 3. The highest point. Mount Morris, Pennsylvania is on top of that truck. The umbrellas are out. It's raining. That means mud and rider vision problems.
Well, we have our electronic film system here, and what it is it's a time system, and you have 32 passes of clear vision. As you can see, the mud on the film right here, all you do is you press this button here and it automatically clears it. And it gives you clear vision. Today, a guy without good vision is in last place.
Great. Well, thanks a lot, Bevo.
In the first moto, the rider apparently with the best vision was Mike LaRocco. He took the win, followed by Guy Cooper, then Ron Chishner turning in another fine ride, finishing third. Now watch what happens in the first corner to rider number 15, Brian Swink. Finished 5th in the first moto, will not make it that high in moto number 2. Early going, it was Guy Cooper out front. Larry Ward running second, Ron Chishner third. In 4th place was Mike LaRocco. Now LaRocco, again, let us point out, was the winner of moto number 1. He likes this Mount Morris racetrack. He likes the mud. He says the tougher it is, the better I do. Here he goes to the inside of Ron Chishner. He takes Chishner's measure, and now Mike LaRocco all of a sudden in the number 3 position. Guy Cooper again having problems. For the 3rd consecutive week while leading a moto, Guy Cooper did a face plant in that soft Mount Morris mud and dropped back from the number 1 position. Now here's Larry Ward, who was leading, rider number 10, and here comes LaRocco. LaRocco goes to the inside. Ward slammed the door, held him off on that pass attempt. Now watch these two riders go at it. They'll hammer each other and this very slippery Mount Morris racetrack. Larry Ward, rider number 10 on the yellow Suzuki, is in the high line. He takes a look at where LaRocco is. Now watch this move. LaRocco had it set up. He tries a block pass. Ward saw it coming. He got to the inside again, but had lost all of his momentum. He was able to actually cut underneath LaRocco. His intention was to gas it and regain that #1 spot, but not enough momentum on this slippery track. So LaRocco takes over the #1 position. He had already won Moto #1. He's going to go on and win Moto #2. We're looking for Guy Cooper, rider number 5. He was the early leader, and Cooper, who really likes to ride mud, fell, but look at, he has rebounded and is actually catching the front two riders. Guy Cooper holding third, but here he comes. He pulls alongside Larry Ward, and he took the measure of Ward to take over the #2 slot. For Guy Cooper, a typical ride. Lead it, crash, get back into the ballgame. Cooper would finish second in the moto. Ron Tishner would take a #4 position, while Larry Ward would hang on to finish third. 5th place would go to Jeremy McGrath. The finish line is coming up. That's how close Cooper was to Mike LaRocco at the checkered flag. The overall win goes to LaRocco, then Cooper, Tishner, Ward, and Jeremy McGrath. So with 3 rounds of 11 down, let's take a look at the leaderboard and the championship point standings. With 135, LaRocco is on top. Tishner, a privateer, has moved into second, followed by Henry, Jeremy McGrath, and Guy Cooper. From Pennsylvania, the series moved west to Sacramento, California. Hangtown, USA, round 4 of the 125cc National Championship Series. Action in the first moto saw the emergence of 2 rather unlikely riders. Not unlikely because of lack of talent, but unlikely because rider number 8, Jeff Emig, on the right side of your screen, had done absolutely nothing at all so far in the season. And the rider on the left of your screen from nearby Pollock Pines, California, Steve Lamson, is riding his first national event after recovering from a broken leg. Steve Lamson took the win, followed by Guy Cooper. Jeff Emig finished in the #3 position, Ryan Hughes 4th, and rounding out the top 5 was Jeremy McGrath. Mike LaRocco turned in a 6th place performance. The top riders managed to avoid that altercation in the second moto. Jeff Emig let him out of the first corner. It was Mike LaRocco running second. 3rd place, the property of Ron Tishner. Tishner, who was easily the top privateer in the series, did not fare well in Moto #1. He finished 8th, and in the second moto, although running 3rd when we last saw him, he would drop back to the #10 position. Let's turn our attention to the battle that developed in the front runner slot. Out front, it's Jeff Emig, rider number 8 out of Highland, California. Running in a #2 position is Mike LaRocco. Now the interesting thing here is, although Emig had been touted at the season opener to being one of the top riders in this 125cc class, he had been having problems. His best finishes to date, a 6th overall in the season opener. He followed that with a 7th and then an 11th overall. So he had not been among the front runners. Here he's leading, though, Moto #2 at Sacramento, California, round #4. Right behind comes Mike LaRocco, and the rider in the #3 slot that we keep getting glances of every now and then is Steve Lamson out of Pollock Pines, California. He was the winner of the opening moto. So throughout Moto #2, this trio of riders showed the rest of the field the short way around this racetrack. Now remember the name of Jeff Emig. You're going to hear a lot more about him as this season progresses, and also Mike LaRocco, who has been just dynamite thus far in the series and holding a rather commanding points lead as we entered into round 4 here at Sacramento. We're watching action from the second moto. First moto was won by Steve Lamson, currently running in the #3 position. Emig out front finished second in that moto, and should he win, should he take the measure of LaRocco here, he would be the overall winner of the day. It's not going to happen. LaRocco got a good drive on the inside down that short straightaway with a jump in the middle of it. He overalls Emig, and he takes over the #1 position. So out front now out of South Bend, Indiana, aboard the Team Kawasaki rider #7 motorcycle is Mike LaRocco. He's followed by Emig. This is the best by far that Emig has ridden all season long. And in 3rd, it's still Steve Lamson coming off that broken leg. Now here, rider number 15 being lapped by LaRocco. He had his trouble today. That was Brian Swink. Here LaRocco heads for the checkered flag. He takes moto number 2, but all that gives him his 3rd overall for the day as Steve Lamson finishes in the number 1 position when you total the points for the 2 motos. We caught up with Lamson back in the pits. Here's what he had to say.
I felt good. I haven't raced a big race in like almost 5 months now, so I was a little nervous coming in here, and I knew my speed was up. I've been riding with some fast guys during the week, and I think I had my speed up, and I just came out here and did my best and came out good.
Came out good indeed. Welcome back, Steve Lamson. On to Buchanan, Michigan, Redbud Track and Trail for round 5 of the 125cc National Championship Series. Let's pick up the action in moto number 1. Jeff Emig is out front. He's long gone. We're looking at the battle for the number 2 position. In second, it's Guy Cooper and Mike LaRocco. This moto is winding down. LaRocco suffered a horrible start, had come up through the pack to take over that number 3 slot with not too many laps to go. He's looking to pick up 1 more position on this racetrack. Now coming into round 5, LaRocco has a 35-point lead on the field. It's almost time for LaRocco to sit back and consider slowing the pace slightly to protect that points lead. Emig, on the other hand, getting every point he possibly can, takes the win. Cooper, you'll see him flash across the line just ahead of LaRocco, then Hughes and Swink in that order. That set up the battle for moto number 2. The gate drops, and it's underway at Redbud, Michigan. Watch the mechanic that walks into the screen, throws up his arms. He saw something he didn't like in that first corner. You can bet that his rider is not out front. Tell you who is out front. It's Jeff Emig, continuing his score to the racetracks. Emig got hot just 1 week earlier, and he stays hot. He's going to go on and take the overall win at Redbud, Michigan. Now there's Guy Cooper suffering just one of the problems that Cooper will have in this second moto. He finished second in moto number 1. He's going to get an 11th place here. Here comes Mike LaRocco on the charge. LaRocco now working to the rear wheel of Ezra Lusk, a Suzuki rider out of Bainbridge, Georgia, rider number 117. Lusk, just a youngster to the National Championship wars. He's going to be taught a lesson here as Mike LaRocco will take the measure of Lusk and show him what it's all about on the National Championship trail. Lusk goes to the inside. LaRocco got a good drive as he squared that corner off and come out of it, throttle pinned to the lock to take over the number 1 position. From that point, LaRocco started to close on Jeff Emig. You can see the difference between the two at that point in the racetrack. Time is running out. LaRocco in second, Emig is first, as Lusk running in the number 3 position. LaRocco would pound away, picking up a second here, a half second there. Finally, with 3 laps to go, he moved to the rear wheel of Emig. And now watch this. LaRocco completes a triple. Emig has a problem, could only ride over that series of 3 jumps. And with that move, LaRocco takes over the number 1 position. Now, Emig's bike appears to be back to normal. Watch him jamming. Here's another look at that. See his right leg jamming that brake lever? He's trying to free a rock that became lodged in the brake mechanism. Now you see LaRocco completed the triple. Emig was just riding, cost him the lead in moto number 1. He went on to take the overall win for the day, followed by LaRocco, Lusk, Swink, and Hughes. Here are the point standings now. LaRocco still in front. Cooper has taken over the number 2 position. Emig is all the way up to 3rd. Tishner 4th. Jeremy McGrath is in 5th. Let's go to Troy, Ohio for round 6 of the 125cc National Championship Series. A lot of rain, a lot more mud. Brian Swink talked about it.
I just rode second practice. It's pretty bad, and it looks like it's getting worse. I think if it rains, it'll be better because right now the mud's really sticky, and if it starts raining, I think it'll loosen up a little bit and not be so bad.
Turned out to be pretty bad for Brian Swink. He finished 38th in the first moto. He'd come back with a 34th in the second moto. Now watch, you'll see how something like that could happen. Those bikes were nice and clean just 1 second ago. Look at them now. The riders in the back of the pack had absolutely no chance. Once they were blasted by that initial dousing of mud and water, it was pretty much all over. The riders up front that had opportunities to make some early passes, to keep their goggles clean, to have some kind of vision in these terrible conditions were the ones that would do well. After a couple of corners at the Troy, Ohio track, Mike LaRocco emerged as the leader. Now you can see Mike LaRocco, rider number 7, is covered with mud. He had to make a couple of those quick passes in the early going to break free. Once there, though, Mike LaRocco is in a wonderful situation. He has no one in front of him to throw mud back on him, and it's an opportunity to open up some kind of a gap over the rest of the field. Jeff Emig is close to the front. Guy Cooper quickly moved into the number 2 position. Now watch, you'll see the mud take its toll here as one rider kisses the ground in that soft mud. One thing about falling on a day like today, it's not like tumbling over hard ground where you get a lot of abrasions and you're going to get a lot of injuries. Today the mud just kind of sucks you up. Late in the going, here's Mike LaRocco. He's pretty much on cruise control now. He had this huge lead, and all LaRocco wants to do is get through the moto by protecting it. But not Guy Cooper. Cooper is still running in the number 2 position. Now watch the move coming up on the part of Cooper. He's airing it out, and he's going to almost lose it. Watch this, off the motorcycle. Back down, he takes a couple of running steps beside it, and look at that. Pumps his left arm in acknowledgement to the crowd that was cheering and hollering and wondering, I think, how he did that. Now there was Jeff Emig holding down 3rd. Let's take another look at Cooper. Here he comes. He's setting up, and look at this. His feet slipped off the pegs. Why he didn't let go of the motorcycle when he was way up in the air is beyond me. That seems like it would have been the safest thing to do. And not Coop. He figured, heck, I'm going to save it. Now, just after that, Cooper pulled into the mechanic signal area to get a new pair of goggles. You can see Cooper's rear fender bobbing up and down. That's due to the weight of the mud. New goggles are on, and Cooper takes off. Watch still to the left of your screen. Here comes Jeff Emig with a good, fast line. Emig, under full power, dives into the corner underneath Cooper. Cooper saw him coming and managed to get out of that corner ahead of Emig. Now, we'll go back to that battle in just a second. Meanwhile, take a look at Mike LaRocco out front. Every time LaRocco crosses the finish line, he says, please, where's the checkered flag? Let's get this thing over. Now, watch this. Watch this double that Cooper tries. He really nails it, but it's too slippery. He cased it. And you'll see Emig riding through it. See that? Cooper went down hard in this slippery mud. He could have rode through that section and been all right, but no, he tried to double. Now Mike LaRocco up front, and LaRocco's on cruise control. He ran off the racetrack. He had enough sense to turn around and go back to the point of the racetrack where he exited. That's according to AMA rules. He got back on the track and once again heads toward the finish line. Again, note the fenders that are bobbing up and down. There must be 75, maybe 150 pounds of mud caked on the bottom side of that motorcycle. Here's a rider that stopped to weigh his bike, and right now he's looking around saying which end is which, where are the handlebars. Conditions at Troy, Ohio, just about as bad as they can get. Watch Cooper one more time. And again, he's still trying to double up. Comes up short on that jump. This time he saved it. And I don't know if you're Guy Cooper, what you do at this point. I think I'd have a tendency to settle back and say, hey, I'm just going to take what I can get out of this one. We'll see what happens in Moto number 2. As LaRocco heads for the checkered flag, I'll tell you what happened in Moto number 2. LaRocco finished second. Jeff Emig, who will finish second here in Moto number 1, here he comes, did the winning in the second moto. That gave him the overall win for the day. Mike LaRocco took second place in the second moto. He finished second overall. Then Cooper with a pair of thirds. Larry Ward, Jimmy Button rounding out the top 5. With a champagne shower, round 6 is history. We'll head to round 7 in the Pacific Northwest, Washougal Park in Washougal, Washington. Weather conditions a little bit better as we take a look at the points. And Doug Henry tells us about this Washougal racetrack.
Yeah, it's really loamy and it's nice and moist, and it stays like that for most of the day. And there's a big crowd out there. There's a lot of fans, and you know, the riders love to see a lot of people come to the races. It shows them, you know, that they're really rooting for you.
When the gate dropped in the first moto in the 125cc class, Mike LaRocco, rider number 7, carried with him a 58-point advantage in the points chase. Before the day was out, that huge points lead would be severely dented. Out front in the opening lap in the 125 class was Brian Swink out of Fenton, Michigan, rider number 15 aboard a Suzuki. Second place in the early going is rider number 22, that's Buddy Antonez. He's aboard a Peak Antifreeze Pro Circuit Honda. Third place, rider number 17, is Jeremy McGrath, a teammate to Antonez, and there's Guy Cooper holding down the number 4 position. Swink and McGrath are the Eastern and Western 125cc regional Supercross champs. You understand what makes 125 tick, although both of them have experienced difficulties in this outdoor season. At Washougal, though, Brian Swink, at least temporarily, seems to have found the answers to all of his troubles. Now watch this move coming up. Watch Cooper slam into McGrath. McGrath grabs hold of Cooper's motorcycle, pulls it a little ways down the track, and he gets off. Cooper stands on his own bike, pushes McGrath's bike off, and he picks his up, and he wants to get back into this one. So Jeremy McGrath, an innocent victim, having one of his better rides today, saw it interrupted in rather a rude style by Guy Cooper. Here's another look. Cooper goes down, his foot peg being tangled in McGrath's rear wheel. McGrath says, "What's that dead weight? Boy, this thing doesn't handle well at all." He steps off and they start to sort them out. McGrath will go on to finish 8th in this moto, and Guy Cooper, on the other hand, is going to drop a few more positions. He'll finish 13th. Meanwhile, up front, Jeff Emig, rider number 8 on the right-hand side of your screen, is challenging Swink for the number 1 position. Emig, just 3 weeks earlier, had never won a 125 National. Then he won 2 in a row. He's looking for 3 in a row here at Washougal. Number 23, that was Ron Tishner. He's holding down the number 3 position. Now watch the action coming up. Watch Emig. He goes to the inside. He tries to take the measure. A lot of bumping and shoving. Tries to get by Brian Swink. But Swink has done a little bit of shoving and bumping in his time, and he refuses, absolutely refuses to be impressed by the antics of Jeff Emig. Now remember that move. In just a few moments, you're going to see several more just like it as these two front runners get into a bumping and shoving match here at this Washougal track. Jeff Emig has taken over the number 1 position. Watch this now. Watch as Swink goes to the inside. Wham! Takes the wheel away from Jeff Emig, and he regains the number 1 position. So it's Swink out front, Emig running second, and here comes Emig right back, and he is going to try to cut Swink off, but he lost his momentum, lost the drive, and Swink was actually able to hold on to the lead until this. Emig crosses over the top in midair on a jump, crosses in front of Brian Swink to take the line away and regain that number 1 spot. Here's some more contact as Swink tries to get to the inside and ram Emig. He was successful there. He was not successful in the pass. So moto number 1 would end in the order they're in right now. Jeff Emig will take the win, and running into number 2 position, Brian Swink, he'll hold on to finish second. Let's go back and take a look at some of this bumping and shoving. Here's the move that started the whole thing, and let me tell you while we watch this that Emig would win both motos on the day. Steve Lampson's going to finish second overall. He'll have a 4th and a 2nd. Ron Tishner with a 3rd and 6th is going to be 3rd overall. Doug Henry will be 4th overall with a 5 and a 4. Here comes Jeff Emig. He'll take the checkers, and we will go to Jeff Emig.
You know, I think it's been 5 years now, and you know, it's a whole lot different. You know, like to come here, you know, and win both motos from behind. You know, it just makes me feel really good, you know, inside.
Well, I think you made these fans feel real good. Jeff Emig, ladies and gentlemen, Team Yamaha with the win.
And the win for Jeff Emig vaulted the young Yamaha rider with 3 wins in a row. Keep that in mind. To sole possession of 2nd place. He is 28 points behind Mike LaRocco as we head into round 8, Millville, Minnesota, Spring Creek Motocross Park. Located just an hour or so south of the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, Millville is a racetrack with severe elevation changes and terrain that encompasses just about everything you'll find on any motocross track throughout the country. There's a little bit of hard pack. There are a couple of very, very treacherous soft sand conditions that it seemed to change the lines most every time around. In the opening moto, Mike LaRocco took the early lead. Jeff Emig, rider that had been chasing him and had cut into his points margin, rider number 8 from Highland, California, was in the number 5 position. He was followed by Ron Tishner. There was Doug Henry as the rest of the field worked their way through the corners here in lap number 1. It was in this first moto that Jeff Emig saw his charge toward the front of the leaderboard ended. He would take a tumble and end up finishing in the number 19 position in moto number 1. Here's a battle that occurred in the first moto. Rider number 117 has Lust. He's in 2nd place, being chased by Ronnie Tishner. Rider number 23, Lust will win that one. He'll finish 2nd, Tishner 3rd. LaRocco takes the win. He'll finish in the number 2 position in the second moto as Jeff Emig came back to win that one. Overall for the day, Tishner was second with a pair of thirds. So with 3 rounds to go, Mike LaRocco's point spread as we head to Broome, Tioga in Binghamton, New York, is 48 over second place Jeff Emig. An ironclad points lead? We'll see. Here Larry Ward talked about this Broome, Tioga track.
I've heard that this track often has one line around it. Is that going to be a factor?
That's a factor at every race. There's places to pass out here, as there is at any national track. If there's not a place to pass, you got to pass. So we'll make the best of it.
That was Larry Ward with one national championship victory to his credit so far in 1992, setting 8th place in the standings. Who makes the best of it coming out of corner number 1? Mike LaRocco, rider number 7. Who got the worst of it? That was Denny Stevenson, rider number 11, that LaRocco was using for traction, and that triggered a monumental traffic jam in that corner. A good number of the riders in the field that were looking to pick up points out here today are going to have to come from way off the pace. When the carnage had cleared in the first corner, the riders had straightened themselves out. It turned out to be Mike LaRocco being chased by Jeff Emig. Those are the 2 riders that have provided the action so far in the series. Let's take another look. See LaRocco coming right to the inside of Stevenson. Stevenson had nowhere to go. LaRocco just put his wheels underneath him and wiped Stevenson out. Meanwhile, out on the racetrack, the 2 riders that are holding down the number 1 and number 2 position in the standings are running in that order here in Moto number 1. At one point in time, LaRocco in the series had a huge lead. It was cut down to about 28 points by Jeff Emig, who started the season very slow and is now catching up. Then in the last go-around, a 19th place finish stopped Emig's point charge and dropped him to about 48 points back off the pace. So in this one, it's LaRocco, it's Emig. Buddy Antunez was running in a number 3 position. Rider number 16 was Steve Lamson. He's running back and forth. We had a shot of Ronnie Tishner. He was rider number 23. And where was Guy Cooper? Coop was involved in that first corner fracas. He will ultimately finish in the number 10 position in Moto number 1. Meanwhile, up front, the battle rages. Mike LaRocco out front has everything to lose. He's riding his own race. He's not really that concerned with Jeff Emig behind him. I think Emig would like to force LaRocco into making some kind of a very stupid error that might knock him out of the moto. Certainly not wishing any kind of injury on LaRocco, but Mike LaRocco were to crash, then the portion of his motorcycle that would prevent him from getting points in 1 or 2 motos, I don't think you would find Jeff Emig being too unhappy about the situation. So perhaps Emig just content to follow LaRocco at this point. He knows that just beating LaRocco is not going to give him the kind of points that he needs to dent that championship run that LaRocco is currently putting on. 48 points is not something you can take away by beating LaRocco by a position or 2 with only a half dozen motos remaining in the 1993 125. 1992, let's correct that, 125 National Championship Series. So LaRocco holding the lead as he has since the outset, and Emig content to follow and try to force the issue. Every once in a while, LaRocco looks over his shoulder to see where Emig might be, and he sees the big number 8 plate on the front of that Yamaha motorcycle just breathing down his rear wheel, not trying to really make the pass, but to badger Mike LaRocco, as we said, into making some kind of a mistake. Toward the end of the moto, LaRocco opened it up. Here's Emig taking the checkered flag. He finishes in the number 2 position. And we'll turn our attention to moto number 2. Let me tell you that the pair of riders out front will ultimately be Emig and LaRocco in that order. They just flip-flop for the second moto. Emig will take the win. Mike LaRocco will finish in the number 2 position. The overall win will go to Emig. For Guy Cooper, round 9 at Binghamton, New York, a round that he would just as soon forget. The veteran Suzuki rider ended his campaign for a 1993 championship with a broken leg. He would be out for the rest of the season. Emig, the overall winner, followed by LaRocco, the 2 shared points as they head to round 10, Delmont, Pennsylvania, Steel City, USA. Let's take a look at the gap in the points between them. It's back to 48 points. That's a lot of points to make up with 2 races, just 4 motos to go. Anything can happen, and I'll tell you at the outset, this round 10 at Steel City, USA will alter the course of the 125cc championship considerably. Mike LaRocco getting off at the back part of the pack. Jeff Emig running about 4th or 5th through the first couple of corners. The field sorts itself out. Ryan Hughes is out front, rider number 68. He's being pushed by Doug Henry. Henry aboard the Yamaha, rider number 19. Holding down the number 3 position is rider number 10 on the Suzuki, Larry Ward. And here comes Jeff Emig for Team Yamaha, rider number 8. Watch carefully. You'll notice several riders slipping and sliding their way around this Steel City racetrack. Combination of rain and clay created a very slippery situation. Ryan Hughes from Escondido, California. Doug Henry from Oxford, Connecticut. Just about as far apart as you can get in this United States, but about as close as you want to be when you're riding a pair of motorcycles. Henry took the lead, but just for a couple of seconds as Ryan Hughes held onto the good line to the inside. He grabbed it right back, but Henry grabbed a handful of throttle and out jumped Ryan Hughes to take over for the second time today, the number 1 position. So it's Doug Henry out front. It's Ryan Hughes in second. Jeff Emig has worked to the number 3 position. There's Larry Ward, rider number 10. He's in 4th. And 5th place is rider number 17. That's Jeremy McGrath. Now, you remember the clay in the waters? Watch what happens. Ryan Hughes goes down. Jeff Emig has to go wide, and he's going to be passed by a couple of riders before he gets his momentum back. Taking over the number 1 position, rider number 19, is Doug Henry. He's aboard the DGY Yamaha, holding second. The Suzuki of Larry Ward, rider number 10. And Jeff Emig is in the number 8 position. Watch this move coming up. Emig on the downhill takes the line away from Ward, forces him off the end of the racetrack. Now remember that. You're going to see it again in just a couple of moments, a few corners from now. First, we're going to have to get rid of Larry Ward. He'll do that all by himself. Remember this slick track just a moment ago? It claimed the victim in Ryan Hughes. It's going to take Larry Ward with him. He'll make this right-hander and barely get on the gas, and the bike just slides right around. Again, the rear wheel catches up with the front wheel. Rider has nowhere to go. Here's that move coming up again on the downhill section. Henry saw it coming, and he got on the brakes instead of having to run off the edge of the racetrack. So he avoided that. However, he lost all of his momentum. And a good move on the part of Jeff Emig as he takes over the number 1 position. Now, who was the fastest rider on the track while all of that was going on? He just slid into 3rd spot. Mike LaRocco from the back of the pack had caught the leaders. LaRocco was turning in an unbelievable ride under, at best, trying conditions. See how slippery that racetrack is? Every time you get on the gas just a little bit, the bike wants to move out from underneath you. So LaRocco, fighting that, plus fighting the traffic, had moved all the way up to 3rd. He was definitely on the gas. And now, LaRocco is gone. Just a couple of corners later, the camera records Jeff Emig coming through. It records rider number 19, Doug Henry. Going back a ways, there is LaRocco. You see him kicking at his shift lever. He is trying to get the bike into gear. It's not going anywhere. Meanwhile, out front, Emig is having a field day. He took a quick look back, did not see LaRocco. He knows there is some kind of a problem, and it's an opportunity for him to gain major points here in the first moto. LaRocco trying to jam that motorcycle into gear. It's not going to work. He's going to record a DNF. That equates to a did not finish. Checkered flag coming up. Henry gave it everything that he had, a last-ditch effort. Emig was able to hold on. He points over at Doug Henry, says, good race. Second moto for Mike LaRocco. It was more of the same. This time the carburetor air intake boot fell off. He would record a second DNF in as many motos. There's LaRocco, rider number 7, pushing his bike to the side of the racetrack. Mike Healy, an American rider that has spent the last couple of years in Europe, did the winning in the second moto. The overall win, though, went to Jeff Emig. Picked up a ton of points today. Let's take a look at that point gap. It went from 48 down to 1 point with 2 motos to go in the 1992 125cc National Championship race. 2 motos, winners take all. Let's talk to the riders about their prospects here today.
You know, that was a bad weekend for me. I kind of blew out my whole points lead, but, you know, this is a new weekend, and hopefully I hit rock bottom on bad luck, and I can have good luck from here on. So, you know, that's behind me, and hopefully I can have a good race here at Budds Creek.
Like, even though, you know, I won a lot of races here, you know, I never thought I'd be 1 point behind coming into the final race. Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether that's good or bad. I mean, I guess we'll find out at the end of the day.
After 11 events, the fate of the 125cc National Championship would be decided long before the end of the day. It would be decided not with a classic duel between 2 riders fighting for the #1 plate, but by an incident with 2 motorcycles banging together in a corner in the heat of battle. As the field sorted themselves out in Moto number 1, it was Jeff Emig out front, Ron Tishner running into number 2 position. Mike LaRocco was holding down the number 3 spot. To the mechanics, to the spectators at Budds Creek, a championship duel was in the making. Jeff Emig out front wanted to put as much distance between himself and LaRocco as he possibly could. He knew LaRocco was capable of charging to the front at every turn of the racetrack. So with Ron Tishner as a buffer, Emig grabbed a handful of throttle and immediately opened a huge lead on the rest of the field. Tishner running into number 2 position, LaRocco running in 3rd, had room to pass, and some spectators, some mechanics began to note that LaRocco was not taking advantage of that room, that LaRocco seemed content to stay in the number 3 position. Up front, Emig had no idea that LaRocco was slowing behind him. LaRocco kept pace with Tishner, but the pack was catching them. Ryan Hughes and the rest were coming. They were on the charge. LaRocco could only ride as fast as his motorcycle would travel. That was not fast enough. It was apparent problems existed. The nature of the problem remained to be seen. Jeff Emig, putting lap number 1 on the book, cast a quick look over his shoulder and saw nothing. Had he looked behind him at this time, he'd have seen Mike LaRocco coming over the hill, waving his arms in disgust as he pulled into the mechanic's signal area. His combination father, mechanic, talking to Mike about the problem. He'll throw his pit board in disgust as the realization sinks in. The championship is over. Mike LaRocco had broken a shift lever somewhere on the first lap. He thinks in the first corner. He thinks banging bars with Ron Tishner. There was no replacement shift lever in the Kawasaki pits, so LaRocco returned to the fray, returned to the racetrack for one more lap before he could pull in to have the damage repaired. By then it was too late. Had there been a shift lever in the pits, it is doubtful that it would have made any difference in the outcome. So the 1992 125cc National Championship was settled not on the track, but in an altercation in the corner. When Jeff Emig took the checkered flag, the championship was as good as his. All he needed was a respectable finish in the second moto. He got that easily as he went on to score the win. Mike LaRocco was there to challenge, but heartbroken, he let Emig go. Beating Emig in that second moto would have made absolutely no difference. Emig took the overall win for the day with a pair of moto wins. Ron Tishner was second, Hughes rounding out the top 3. When it was over, Jeff Emig received the congratulations of his pit crew. He won his first ever 125cc National Championship event earlier in the season. He followed that up with 5 more. So with 6 wins, Jeff Emig is the 125cc National Champ. 430 points. Mike LaRocco finishes second with 411. Ron Tishner rounding out the top 3. Let's go to Jeff Emig and hear his thoughts on winning the title.
Feel pretty relieved, I think is the word I'm looking for. You know, like all week long, I went through it in my head. You know, so I said, okay, bottom line, if you win both motos, then you win the championship. Yeah. Won both motos, won the championship.
And very muddy conditions in the second moto as well.
Yeah, when I was on the line, like actually I was taking a nap in between motos, woke up, like it was raining. I said, oh man. I said, okay, just get the whole shot and make your life easy. I got the whole shot both motos and it made my life a whole lot easier, a whole lot happier.
We'll congratulate and leave a happy Jeff Emig and turn our attention to the 250cc National Championship. Let's take a look at the number 1 plate holder, Jean-Michel Bayle, 2 times a world champ, and 1 year ago winning the AMA Supercross 250 and 500cc crowns. His teammate aboard the Honda is Jeff Stanton, 2 times a 250cc champ and 2 times a Supercross champion. Bayle took Stanton's titles from him, and Stanton wants them back. Here's a newcomer to the 250cc ranks, Mike Kidrowski. He has won a pair of 125cc national championships. He's looking to turn his talents now to the 250 class. Damon Bradshaw, a rider that most everyone suspects is a championship just waiting to happen. Perhaps it'll come in this 250 class of 1992. Jeff Ward, this is his last season for Team Kawasaki. Let's make that his last season ever. Check out the credentials. One of the winningest and most remembered, revered riders of all time in the history of American motocross. Wardy is hanging it up at the close of the 1992 season. For the opening round of the 250cc National Championship Series, we return to Gainesville, Florida, Gatorback Raceway. That's a look at Jeff Stanton, his mechanic Dan Bentley. Let's talk to Jeff.
Jeff, this is the beginning of the new season on the 250 Outdoor Nationals. You looking forward to claiming the title?
Yeah, I am. I lost it 1991, so 92 is a new year for me. I look forward to going out there and staying healthy and once again winning that championship.
You've been out for one practice session this morning. How's the track?
Track's good. It's typical Gainesville. It's going to get nice and rough, and it's of course nice warm Florida climate. It's going to be some good racing.
And Stanton, along with this rider, should be in the middle of it. Damon Bradshaw not too happy with the way things went in practice. Let's hear what he has to say.
You're working with, as you mentioned, a team that's used to winning championships. Has that helped you out?
Yeah, it does, because all the guys have got a lot of experience, they've all been there with the winningest riders, and hopefully they can give me some of that guidance. You can never quit learning. I'm still learning from those guys, and they're still learning from me, so it helps out to have a team like that.
And a team like that provided all kinds of action in Moto #1 as the season opener got underway in the 250 class. Stanton had come from off the pace to take the lead. He bobbled. Doug Duback got it back. Watch this vault by Bradshaw. Watch on the left side of your screen. Look at that flight. Bradshaw just uncorked the longest, the highest, most ridiculous jump you've ever seen in your life. He went on to win Moto #1. Stanton was second. Kedrowski third. Doug Duback finished fourth. And Jean-Michel Bayle finished in the #5 slot. That was Moto #1. Now let's catch up with the 250 class as the gate drops in the second moto at Gainesville. Now the 250cc Motocross Series, the Outdoor National Championship Series, is 6 races long. Now the 125 National Championship Series that we just watched was 11 races long. At the first 6 125 events, there was a 250cc National Championship round. At the final 5 125cc events, there was a 500cc National Championship round. We'll get to those 500s a little bit later in the program. In the meantime, in the second moto, a pair of Honda teammates, Jeff Stanton, rider #2. He's been a 250cc Outdoor National Champ on 2 occasions. Jean-Michel Bayle, rider #1. He is the defending 250 champ. 1 year ago, Bayle won the 250 title. He won the 500 title, and he won the Supercross title. He was everything in Supercross and Motocross in 1991. Here, Bayle putting a hurting on his teammate as he takes over the lead in Moto #2 in this 250 class. Running up with the leaders, number 35 is Sean Kalos. He's aboard a Yamaha out of Litchfield Park, Arizona. Jean-Michel Bayle continues to lead Stanton in this opening 250 race. Jean-Michel Bayle has already announced his retirement from motocross. He claims that in 1993 he'll turn his talents toward the sport of road racing. Wants to campaign the World Championship Trail in the 500cc class. More than likely in 1993, if indeed Bayle does go road racing, he'll do it aboard the 250. Here he shows America that he is the #1 motocrosser in the world. Stanton follows. Watch Bradshaw coming up. Bradshaw had just started to move up through the pack when this happened. A slight tumble. Looks like he got the wheel outside of the rut and didn't have enough momentum to carry himself around that corner, so Bradshaw went down. Bradshaw developed a problem with the motorcycle that would carry him into the pits. We'll see that in just a second. In the meantime, Jeff Stanton has started to close the gap on Jean-Michel Bayle. And look at this, rider #6, Jeff Ward starting to make a move. And here comes Mike Kedrowski right behind him. Jeff Ward has announced his retirement. Unlike Jean-Michel Bayle, he's going to leave 2 wheels entirely. He wants to go car racing. Now here comes Bradshaw into the pits. He's pointing at his throttle. That was the result of that little crash that Bradshaw took. Brian Lunas, his mechanic, was digging for the tools. Bradshaw would get back in it. He would work up to somewhere close to the top 10. Then severe stomach cramps would put him back a way further. He ended up finishing 16th in this moto. Meanwhile, check out the battle between the Honda teammates. Jean-Michel Bayle is on the right, Jeff Stanton on the left. Stanton was the early leader. Bayle made the pass, and he led for most of the middle laps. And now Stanton is coming back, and he regains the #1 position. Unbelievable race action in this, the opening round of the 250cc National Championship Series. You have to wonder if Kedrowski gets off the line with these two, if Damon Bradshaw keeps it upright and he stays with these two, what kind of a series are we going to have? In the estimation of most, it is going to be extremely exciting and more than likely will go right down to the wire. Jeff Stanton with two 250cc titles under his belt, looking to regain that #1 position from his teammate Jean-Michel Bayle. And if anything, that's just an added incentive, the fact that his teammate has it. And there is Stanton coasting around a slowed Damon Bradshaw as he heads up the hill to collect the checkered flag. He'll take the overall win with moto finishes of 2-1. Jean-Michel Bayle with moto finishes of 5-2 will finish second overall. There's Kedrowski. He finished third. Then Jeff Ward and Doug Dubach. Just like in the 125 class, overall positions are determined in the 250 class by tabulating the points that a rider earns in each of the two motos. Let's go to Southwick, Massachusetts for the second round of the 250 class. Jeff Ward talked about the track.
Yeah, well, this track's fast and it's got a lot of big holes, and you know, sand, we don't race too much sand in the circuit, so when they come here, it can bite you real quick, and it does. It's done me in the past, but I've been here enough to where I know where the danger parts are and where to be careful. So for somebody that's been here one time, it takes its toll on you.
We'll pick up the action in moto #2. The first moto was won in a landslide by Damon Bradshaw. He got out front, waved goodbye to the rest of the field, won it by 30 seconds. Jeff Stanton finished second after starting in the middle of the pack. Mike Kedrowski was third, and you have a quick look at Stanton there. Rider #2, again, he's in the middle of the pack. Yamaha's Doug Dubach leads it. His teammate, the rider that won moto #1, Bradshaw, was running somewhere around mid-pack, and watch this. Now, you're not going to see Damon Bradshaw. You're only going to see a lot of bikes, and you're going to see some people stepping off, a lot of sand being thrown. Bradshaw got caught up in that mess, and he was well off the pace. He would have to begin his charge to the front from the rear. Doug Dubach, meanwhile, letting it all hang out, being chased by Jean-Michel Bayle, and Dubach was really on the gas, doing what he could do to hold Jean-Michel Bayle at bay. Just doesn't work there. The Frenchman's after you, the Frenchman is going to get you. He got Dubach. Dubach, though, bouncing right back and refuses to go away. The second consecutive week, Dubach, the Yamaha, shows that he does have indeed what it takes to ride outdoor motocross. Dubach has been around for a good number of years and has really not distinguished himself in the national championship circuit in terms of clicking off with a regular basis, the seconds, thirds, and occasional wins that others have. He's a journeyman rider, though, one of the finest guys on the circuit and also one of the fastest. Meanwhile, the Frenchman Jean-Michel Bayle has his hands full with Mike Kedrowski, the Kawasaki rider from Acton, California. Kedrowski takes the measure of Bayle to move into the #1 position with Bayle right behind. Don't forget, Stanton is still charging through the pack. He's coming from the mid-pack position, while Bradshaw had dropped all the way back to the rear end of the pack. He, too, is charging. Out front, though, it's rider #3, Mike Kedrowski, then Jean-Michel Bayle, and there's a quick look at Stanton, who has now worked his way to the rear wheel of Jean-Michel Bayle. Stanton is in third. So there's the running order, Kedrowski, Bayle, and Stanton. For the two bikes in red, it's a replay of 1 week ago at Gainesville. Only difference now is Mike Kedrowski has thrown his name into the hat, and he is out front, leading the pair of Honda riders. Jeff Stanton stalks Kedrowski, studying every move that Kedrowski makes. And when Stanton thinks the time is right, zap, he's going to make some kind of a move and try to get around the Acton, California-based Kawasaki rider. There, Stanton had an inside line. Kedrowski would not cooperate. In the early going, many self-proclaimed experts had indicated that the championship should be decided between Bradshaw, Stanton, Bayle, and Kedrowski. They threw the fourth rider into that fray and said one of those four guys ought to do it. As much as we'd like to take a look at Jeff Ward, age has gotten to him, and he's not as fast as he used to be over a long period of time. So for a sprint race, you might have a tendency to look at Ward, but being it's a moto that's 30 minutes plus 2 laps long, we're going to pass on that one. Strange to hear them say that, because Ward is one of the most finely conditioned athletes that you'll find anywhere in the world, and I really rather doubt that strength and endurance are his problems or the reasons that he's going to quit racing. I think it's just as he said, it's time to look at other fields of endeavor. Meanwhile, Mike Kedrowski showing the short way around the racetrack to Jeff Stanton, and that pair of riders has left Jean-Michel Bayle and the rest of the field quite a way off the pace. Let's watch a few of the techniques employed by this pair of riders. Kedrowski bobbled right there. Jeff Stanton slid by, got to the inside, and he made the pass. Kedrowski is charging right back, looking for some kind of running room, and he is not going to get it. Had an opportunity there. He could have given Stanton a little bit of a nudge and chose not to do it. So, winning the last moto and the overall for the day was Jeff Stanton. Mike Kedrowski finished second. Then came Bradshaw, Jean-Michel Bayle, and John Dowd from Chicopee, Massachusetts. Round 3 of the National Championship Series. Here are the points going in. 94 for Stanton, then 80 Kedrowski, 73 Bayle, 70 Damon Bradshaw. So there are 4 riders that are still in the hunt for this 250cc National Championship. Let's see how they fare as the gate has dropped in moto number 1. Mike Kedrowski off to a good start, as are the Honda teammates. Jeff Stanton, Jean-Michel Bayle, they're fairly close to the front. Damon Bradshaw is just off the pace. The rider that is out front, though, is a local favorite from Export, Pennsylvania. That's Mike Jones. Jones, number 38, had jumped to the early lead here in moto number 1 and thrilled the crowd. Jean-Michel Bayle just made the move to put him into the number 1 position, dropping Jones back to second. Kedrowski would have been third at that point. Then Jeff Stanton, and back a couple of more slots was Damon Bradshaw. Mike Jones has faded from the front. He's worked his way back toward the middle portion of the racetrack in this opening moto. Jean-Michel Bayle has widened the gap, the lead that he has had throughout the event. Jeff Stanton has now taken over the number 2 position, but he is a good way behind Jean-Michel Bayle. With him, though, as they try to close the gap, was Mike Kedrowski and Damon Bradshaw. A few laps later, Stanton had the job done. Nasty mud seemed to be tailor-made for his riding style, and Bradshaw now moves within 10 feet of Jean-Michel Bayle, the leader in this one. There are no other riders at this particular time in sight to contest that battle. Damon Bradshaw has moved to the number 3 position, but Bradshaw is well behind the lead duo. It would appear at this point that it would be up to the 2 of them, the Honda teammates. Jeff Stanton, rider number 2, Jean-Michel Bayle, the Frenchman, rider number 1. It would be up to those 2 teammates to establish who would win the overall here in High Point Raceway. But a surprise coming up, Damon Bradshaw, who had not gated particularly well, but had hung in there throughout the entire moto. There's Bradshaw. He has moved to the number 2 position in the closing laps. Jeff Stanton has the lead. Bradshaw is running in second place. Bayle has dropped back to third. Let's take a look at this challenging battle between the 2 front runners. Stanton, the king of the 250 class. He did lose the number 1 plate to Jean-Michel Bayle in 1991, but he has indicated that here in 92 it's all his. He's going to get it back. And you have to believe him at this point. He has a rather large lead in championship point standings, but watch this move. Stanton holds his line inside and figures he's getting around that corner as fast as anyone can. Damon Bradshaw with an outside line showed Stanton that he wasn't going quite as fast as he thought he was. Then Gene Newmack, who had parked the motorcycle in the center of the racetrack, almost gets flipped by all 3 riders, finally decides to move it. In any event, Damon Bradshaw has taken over as the white flag is waved, signifying 1 lap remaining, has taken over the number 1 position. There's the checkered flag. Bradshaw wins it. Stanton is going to come home in the number 2 slot. Jean-Michel Bayle will finish third. Here are the first moto results. Mike Kedrowski was 4th, and Doug Dubach rounded out the top 5. In between motos, more rain and more mud made it even sloppier for moto number 2 in the 250 class. Gate drops. Now watch the action in the first corner. Bradshaw's gone. He sneaks by. Stanton, though, ran into the rear wheel of Bradshaw. He gets tangled up with Larry Brooks, rider number 30. He's looking around to see what's holding onto his motorcycle. Turns out that it's Michael Craig, rider number 59. Stanton gets back into it from the back of the pack. He would turn in a ride that netted him 4th place by the end of the moto. An outstanding effort. Jean-Michel Bayle is going to finish in the number 2 position in the moto. Mike Kedrowski will be 3rd in this, the 2nd moto at Mount Morris. Bradshaw wins it, and he wins the overall. The pair of moto wins, followed by Bayle, Stanton, Kedrowski, and Palmer. From too much rain at Mount Morris, Pennsylvania, we're going to Sacramento, California, where they have to manufacture a little bit of water on the racetrack to hold the dust down. Let's take a look at the point standings. Jeff Stanton out front by 14 over Bradshaw, then Kedrowski, Bale, and Jeff Ward rounding out the top 5. Let's pick up the action from Hangtown with the second moto. In the opening moto, it was Damon Bradshaw taking the win. Finishing in the number 2 position was Jean-Michel Bale. Third place went to Stanton. Fourth place was Doug Dubach. Rounding out the top 5 was Larry Brooks. Bradshaw's win in the opening moto, very impressive. He's coming off the overall win at Mount Morris, Pennsylvania just 1 week earlier. And he obviously is feeling that he is whipping himself and his Yamaha into shape in preparation for the remainder of this 250cc Outdoor National Championship Series. He has forged to the front in moto number 2 just as he did in moto number 1. He ran away with that one. He'll not be so lucky in moto number 2. Jeff Stanton is going to hang tough, and Stanton will ultimately make the pass that will carry him into the lead in the moto. Bradshaw will wisely let him go. Stanton will take the moto win. Bradshaw will finish in the runner-up spot. That will earn him overall honors for the day. Let's check some of the action. Stanton and Bradshaw just pounding every inch of this Hangtown racetrack. It's very hard track and very, very slick. It's not easy to grab the traction out here when you need it. It requires a delicate throttle control. Stanton took an outside line. He managed to get to that corner before Bradshaw did. Eased his Honda over in front of Bradshaw. Bradshaw had to roll the throttle back off the pace and let Stanton go. So Stanton has taken the number 1 position, and here comes Bradshaw right back at him. Bradshaw is riding rather tentatively at this point rather than aggressively. He knows that he's picked up a couple of points by virtue of the fact that he won the opening moto, and Stanton finished in the number 3 spot. So if Stanton finishes this one and Bradshaw finishes second, well, that's going to give him a couple of points, and I think he would rather accept those 2 points at this point in time than risk going on his head. There are still 2 races, and that equates to 4 motos remaining in the 250cc series. 2 races in which anything can happen, and in motocross it usually does. Here comes Jeff Stanton downhill. Damon Bradshaw following, stalking, studying the lines of the veteran Jeff Stanton. Bradshaw, 19 years old, looking for his first ever national championship. Stanton already has 4 of them, and look at that mistake. Bradshaw apparently getting tired, or maybe he has rolled off the throttle too much, and he's in uncharted territory because he's not going as fast as he usually does. Watch this. Goes to the outside of that bale. Maybe he just wanted to find a new line, and he felt the best way to do it was to knock that bale back on the racetrack. Could be he thought Bale was coming along, or Stanton might pass there the next go around and run into it. Who knows? In any event, Stanton is going to run into the checkered flag. He'll just roll over the top of the hill. That'll give him second overall for the day. Bradshaw wins it. Let's hear from Damon Bradshaw. He's won 2 in a row.
Yeah, I moved over and, let Jeff go by. I wanted to follow her, and after I did it about a lap afterwards, I decided it was the wrong thing to do. It was so, it was really hard for me to see, and I just tried to do what I could. I wanted to get back around and try to pick up those extra points, but I didn't want to throw it down also. And made a couple mistakes there too at the end behind some lapped riders and just settled for second.
As the series returns to the Midwest for round number 5, Buchanan, Michigan, Bradshaw has 2 wins, Stanton 2. Kedrowski still looking for his first.
I've been running up there top 3, top 2, and top 4. So I'm looking for that first win, first moto win. I think that's going to give me a lot of confidence, and I think that's what it takes. It's just like riding the 125 class. Once you win a national, then you know you can win. You just keep on going. So I'm looking for the first one, and today I feel real good. I'm in perfect shape. I'm ready for this race. My Kawasaki's are running great, so there's no reason why I can't today.
No reason you can't if your name is Mike Kedrowski, as we take another look at the point standings, but plenty of reason if your name is Stanton or Bradshaw. Those 2 riders have pretty much narrowed the points race down to themselves, and that's where the fight for the championship will come from. And fight they did in moto number 1. Jeff Stanton took the early lead. Right behind comes Damon Bradshaw. Jeff Matasevich holds down the number 3 position. Then comes Mike Kedrowski. Jean-Michel Bale, injured in a supercross, is not riding the Red Bud event. So that left Jeff Stanton as the only Honda representative on the track. And watch this move. Damon Bradshaw squirts to the inside of Stanton and in front of Jeff Stanton's friend and family. Friends and family, let's make that. He's from nearby Sherwood, Michigan. Bradshaw takes the measure of the two-time 250cc national champ. Now for the next 9 laps or so, this pair of riders will battle each other just wheel to wheel, handlebar to handlebar. Stanton would close to the rear wheel of Bradshaw. Bradshaw would grab a handful of throttle and squirt away. He would open up a 10, maybe 15 bike length advantage, but Stanton would go to work and gain that ground all over again. Finally, somewhere around the midway point, Stanton really began to probe. He would put a wheel to the inside or a wheel to the outside, letting Bradshaw know that he was there, and in general trying to worry the Mooresville, North Carolina Yamaha rider into making some kind of a mistake so that he could make a clean pass. Bradshaw, though, was up to the task, and each time Stanton would probe, he would get the wheel in. Bradshaw continued to fight him off. This battle went on and thrilled the huge Redbud crowd as they were watching a classic motocross duel. With 4 rounds to go, 4 motos to go in the series, if Bradshaw were to win every one of them, he would overtake Stanton in the championship point standings. That must have been in Jeff Stanton's minds as they pounded this Redbud track. Stanton knew that he needed to click off 1, maybe even 2 wins before this one would be wrapped up. But coming up, a Bradshaw mistake that would settle the issue and settle the outcome of the 1992 250cc National Championship drive. It would all but hand it to Jeff Stanton on a platter. Now watch Damon Bradshaw closely. And with that mistake, the season was over in the 250 class for Bradshaw. For Stanton, the title was as good as wrapped up. For several seconds, Bradshaw, who had hobbled to the side of the track, lay there immobile before getting up and limping around, trying to shake off the obvious injury to his knee. He was done not only for this moto, but he would not come out for moto number 2. Watch again. Violent crash. Bradshaw wrenching a knee in the process, a knee that would, at the end of the season, require surgery. Stanton won the first moto, Kiedrowski second, then Dubach, Jeff Ward. Here's moto number 2. As we told you, Damon Bradshaw is not in the field. Bradshaw electing to set it out. The championship is as good as lost, and all powers to be. And Team Yamaha decided that the best thing for Bradshaw to do would be to rest the knee. The Supercross title at this point in time was still at stake. Larry Brooks took the early lead. He's being battled and followed here by Mike Kiedrowski. Kiedrowski will eventually pass Brooks. He'll go on to take the win in the second moto. It's going to give Mike Kiedrowski the overall win for the day, the first ever of his career in the 250cc class. Earlier in the program, Kiedrowski had talked about what it would take to get that first win and what it would mean to him. Jeff Stanton at this point realizes that all he has to do is stay upright on his motorcycle, and there's no way he can lose this 250cc national title. So what Stanton needs to be doing is putting that Honda on cruise control and taking it easy. Watch this, though. Brooks is up over the jump. Now watch Stanton. Are you putting me on? Stanton could have lost the title right there. It could have all been over. Fortunately, Stanton was not injured in the crash. Fortunately, his motorcycle was not twisted too badly to keep running. And fortunately, he got it running and he got back in the hunt. Look at this. That motorcycle could have been twisted beyond being ridden, and Stanton could easily have wrenched one or both legs or suffered even more of a serious injury. So the crash gods were smiling on Stanton and not on Bradshaw. The checkered flag went to Kiedrowski, and he's happy. He takes his first ever national win. Second overall for the day went to Jeff Stanton, followed by Jeff Ward. Doug Dubach was 4th, and Jeff Matasevich rounded out the top 5. Here are the point standings as the 250cc series heads into the final round at Troy, Ohio, Kenworthy's Motocross Park. Jeff Stanton is on top by 45 over Kiedrowski. Now, what that equates to is a 15th place finish in either the first or second moto. If he does that, regardless of what Kiedrowski does, Kiedrowski wins them both. Stanton would still be the 1992 national champ. Number 9 is Jeff Matasevich aboard the Kawasaki. Looked like he got a good hole shot, but it is wet, it is gooey, it is nasty, it is slippery, just as gnarly and rotten as it can be here at Kenworthy. And the hole shot went to Jeff Stanton, who seemingly came from nowhere. Riders already are down all over the racetrack. It's going to be one of those days. There's only one place to be running, and that's up front. If you are up front and you don't have the mud, you don't have the water being thrown back on you like the back markers will have all day long. So Stanton out front, and right behind him, Jean-Michel Bayle, his Honda teammate and the defending 250cc national champ, and Bayle sweeps into the #1 position. Oddly enough, Jean-Michel Bayle did not win a single 250cc race in 1991 when he won the 250cc title. As a matter of fact, Bayle has only one 250cc national win to his credit. He won that one in Gainesville, Florida in 1989. He'd come over to the United States to ride a couple of Supercross events, was headed back to Europe to compete in the 250cc World Championships. His final race prior to leaving for Europe was in Gainesville, the opening round of the '89 season. Bayle took the overall win, went back to Europe, and won the national champion, the World Championship rather, in the 250 class. He had not won, though, another United States Outdoor 250 National since that point in time. He's taking the measure of Stanton here today in the final round of the 250cc National Championship Series. Now, you might wonder, why wouldn't Stanton lay off the pace, let Bayle go? He only needs 6 points. Let's collect the championship and go home. I'm here to tell you, there is no love lost between this pair of teammates. They've just come off a rather bitter Supercross season where Stanton won the title. Jean-Michel Bayle blamed Jeff Stanton for an injury that kept him out of the last race, or kept him from being competitive and kept him from winning the title. Stanton says, "Phooey, I never touched the guy." Bayle says, "Yes, you did. You knocked me down." The video shows Stanton was in the right. Bayle still upset over the way the whole thing was handled. So Stanton says, "Fine, I'm going to win this series. I'm going to win whatever race I can. He can go back to France, and it'll all be history." And that's what's going to happen after the racing here this season. The 500cc title chase is over. Bayle will go back to Europe to contest the World Championship road race series. He's retiring from motocross. A good move there. That says, why retire? You've got it all. You've got all of the tools. And he just showed Jeff Stanton that he still has what it takes. Stanton comes right back, though, and passes Bayle one more time. They put on an unbelievable duel in some of the nastiest race conditions that we'd seen all year long. The footing here was extremely treacherous. There were big pools of mud, big pools of water, and every inch of the racetrack was extremely slippery. Still, the Honda teammates fought each other every inch of the way. At the end of the day, Jean-Michel Bayle had won the overall with a pair of moto wins. Jeff Stanton had taken 2 second places. Jean-Michel Bayle holds up the trophy, signifying his second ever 250 national win, while Jeff Stanton will hold up the number plate, signifying his third 250cc national title. A time to rejoice, a time to be happy? You would think so. Yet Jeff Stanton was not.
I just had a bad day altogether. I just didn't ride good, so I'm not too happy right now.
Tell us about the 2 motos.
Oh, they just went terrible for me. I just didn't ride good. Plain and simple, I got beat.
You looking forward to the 500s?
Yeah, I am. Just keep driving forward and win all 3 this year. I've yet to do it, so I'm going to do it this year.
Very good. Well, we're looking forward to seeing you on the 500s.
Thank you.
Let's hear it for Jeff Stanton.
With barely a rest, Stanton and the rest of the 250 Warriors would turn their attentions toward the 500cc crown. First, a tribute to Jeff Ward.
To present you with this plaque, and we love you up here, and I think you guys owe him a big round of applause. Jeff Ward.
For Jeff Ward, a long and very successful and prosperous career in motocross was about to come to an end. 5 races remained in the 500cc National Championship Series. Ward could ride all of them, then hang it up. His motocross career would be over. In the opening moto, it was Ward's teammate, Jeff Matasovic, rider number 9 aboard the Kawasaki, that got the whole shot. But Ward, perhaps in response to the swelling ovation from the huge crowd at Washougal, thundered past his teammate to take over the number 1 position. So Jeff Ward led the pack on the opening lap, the final series of his career at the track that he favored more than any other in the United States. Jeff Stanton was quick to follow suit. He too passed Matasovic, and he set his sights on the fleeing Jeff Ward. At the outset of Jeff Stanton's career, it was thought by most that Stanton was one of the premier 500cc riders in the United States, perhaps in the world. But Stanton has yet to win a 500cc national crown. He has won 3, counting this year's in the 250 class. He has won a pair. In fact, he has won 3, counting this year's in the Supercross class. But he had never won in the 500cc class. It's the one title he wants more than any other. Jeff Ward, on the other hand, has been a national champion in all forms of AMA national competition. 125cc, 250cc, 500cc, and Supercross. As a matter of fact, Jeff Ward has won each one of the titles on 2 occasions, with the exception of the 125cc crown. With 7 national championships, he has won more national titles than any rider in the history of U.S. motocross. And right now, Jeff Ward looks a long way from retiring. He's taking the measure of the best in the business, holding Jeff Stanton at bay. Meanwhile, Mike Kudrowski, who is probably the heir apparent to Jeff Ward's throne at Kawasaki, is back in the pack. He's made his way through traffic and is going to make a run at the leaders, although he is quite a ways off the pace at this point. It's still Ward out front. Jeff Stanton, with time running out, running in the number 2 position. Kudrowski is third, a long way from the action. Jeff Ward, at 31, has been racing professionally for about 16 years. Along the way, he's established quite a pile of records. He's 5th overall in 125 wins. He has 11. 250 wins. He has 13. That's good enough for 4th on that list. 500cc class, he has 10 wins. Only 3 other riders have won more than that. He combines Supercross with all of his motocross wins, and he sets at 54. That's 3rd on the all-time career list amongst all of the riders that have ever participated in motocross and Supercross in the U.S. Here he moves over just a little bit. Could be he's getting a slight on the tired side, and Jeff Stanton takes advantage of the situation, finds the line on the inside, and he takes over the number 1 spot. Stanton waited to do it just as cleanly as he possibly could. Did not want to force the issue with Jeff Ward. I'll tell you why. I don't think it was for any reason other than respect for Ward's ability. I think he knows that if he messed with Ward and took him out physically or bodily, that Ward would come right back and bounce him off the next berm. Ward has learned a trick or 2 in his time around the motocross circuit. No 2 ways about that. So Jeff Stanton takes the first moto. He's followed by Jeff Ward. Kudrowski was 3rd, Matasevich, then Lance Smale. 500cc class, 2nd moto. Let's see how this one shakes out and who wins the overall for the day. It's not going to be Jeff Stanton. Let me put that away for you right now. Instead, it's going to be Mike Kudrowski. He takes the whole shot. He's going to hold that position throughout the moto. He'll take the win. Jeff Ward is going to round out the day with another 2nd place finish. Couple that with the 2nd place that he had in the first moto. He'll be 3rd overall. Stanton finishes 3rd in the 2nd moto, and that will put him at 2nd overall. But Kudrowski wins the opening shot of the season in the 500cc class. From Washougal to Spring Creek Park in Millville, Minnesota, Kudrowski looking for his 2nd consecutive win. This is an extremely rough track. The sands change every time around. And what was a good line just 1 lap or so ago might be the roughest line on the racetrack by the time you get back around to it. Mike Kudrowski took the early lead. Jeff Ward running in the number 2 position, and Jeff Stanton was in the number 3 spot. On the backside of the racetrack, out of sight of cameras, Jeff Ward succumbed to the pressure put on by Stanton. He dropped back to the number 3 slot as Stanton moved into 2nd and began his quest of catching Mike Kudrowski, who was holding down the number 1 position. In moto number 1, he would not get the job done. Kudrowski is going to hang on to take the win. Stanton will finish in the number 2 slot. Jean-Michel Bale, the defending 500cc champ, will finish 3rd. John Dowd will get a 4th place, and Larry Brooks will round out the top 5. 2nd moto, it was all Jeff Stanton. He took the win. Kudrowski finished 2nd. So once again, the 2 riders will tie for the day, but Stanton, doing better in the 2nd moto, will be awarded the overall win and overall honors for the day. So after 2 rounds of 500cc national championship competition, both Kudrowski and Stanton have each won 2 motos. They each have a 2nd, and they each have a 3rd. Jean-Michel Bale, John Dowd, and Larry Brooks round out the top 5 finishes at Millville. Round 3 of the 500cc series, Binghamton, New York, Broome, Tioga. It's a different kind of racetrack. Earlier, Jeff Stanton explained.
What's the track like?
The track's going to be rough. The rain we had just is going to make it perfect. So it's going to be a demanding race. It's going to be really rough and technical, and you know, the best man's going to win today.
Remarks like those are often bandied about by those that are full of confidence. And Jeff Stanton certainly is confident of his ability here at the Broome-Tioga racetrack in Binghamton, New York. The gate drop. Stanton was the first out of the gate to take over the #1 position. Right behind him came the big three of the big green, Mike Kiedrowski. So it was Stanton and Kiedrowski, the points leaders in the 250cc class, showing the rest of the field the short way around this racetrack. They are tied at 92 points apiece in the 500cc National Championship Series. Again, they've each scored a pair of moto wins. They each have a second place, and they each have a third place. This is the first time, though, that the pair of riders have been matched up head-to-head. They've not gone at each other for an entire moto to see who is the best 500cc rider in 1992. Right now, it looks like Stanton deserves that honor. He got the whole shot and has kept Mike Kiedrowski at bay. How hard is Kiedrowski trying at this point? We don't have any idea. Take a look at the scores, the standings at this point, and no wonder what Mike Kiedrowski is thinking, what Jeff Stanton is thinking. Are either one of them or are both of them going at 110%? Is there anything left in reserve? If Kiedrowski were to close the gap between him and Stanton, would Stanton have just a little bit left to wheelie away and throw some dirt back in the face of Mike Kiedrowski? Jeff Ward, running in a #3 position, would like to catch them both to find out. Jean-Michel Bayle is right behind him. So Wardy, with just 2 races left in his illustrious career, making the most of it here at Broome-Tioga. Meanwhile, a rough downhill section. Jeff Stanton paying attention to the racetrack. It's total concentration from here on out. The 2 riders both vying for the 500cc national title. Neither one of them have ever won that honor. Jeff Stanton has 3 250cc titles to his credit and 3 Supercross crowns. Mike Kiedrowski has won a pair of 125 national titles. But the 500cc title is the one that everyone wants. And watch this. Stanton bobbles. He got a little sideways off to that jump. And to keep from running off the track, he hit the brakes. That gave Mike Kiedrowski an opportunity to slide by on the inside. Kiedrowski wins the moto. Stanton finishes second. Dag Boyson is going to crash here for our entertainment. In the second moto, those 2 riders finished the same way, first and second. So with a pair of wins, Kiedrowski wins the overall for the day. Here's what Stanton thought.
Just didn't have it. You know, Mike Kiedrowski was riding a hell of a race. Smooth, consistent. Some days you get beat, you just have to suck it up and work a little harder for the next one.
So with 2 races remaining in the 500cc National Championship Series, that equates to 4 motos, Mike Kiedrowski takes a 6-point lead in the championship standings. Jeff Ward is holding the #3 position, followed by Jeff Natasevich, then the top privateer, John Dowd from Chicopee, Massachusetts. Next to last round of the season, it belongs to Delmont, Pennsylvania. Steel City, USA is the racetrack.
Yeah, I'd like to win here because then when I go to Budds Creek, I'd have a 12-point lead, and then I wouldn't, you know, I'd be right there in the points. Stan could win both motos, and I'd still be in good shape to win the championship. So I'm here to win, and that's what I came here to do, so I'm going to give it all I got.
I would have to tell you that that same sentiment was running through the Team Honda pit in the person of Jeff Stanton, and I would think that Jeff Ward and Mike Bayle, Jean-Michel Bayle rather, Mike Jones, Todd DeHoop, a lot of other riders were thinking the same thought. Big pile up in the first corner in that 500cc class. There were riders all over the place, but all of the good ones escaped unscathed. Taking the whole shot was Jean-Michel Bayle. He's followed by Mike Jones. There's Mike Kiedrowski running in the #3 position. Jeff Stanton running in the #4 slot, and there's Jeff Ward running 5th. Usually it's hard to catch Jean-Michel Bayle when he's out front, but not when Jean-Michel Bayle cooperates. But even when he crashes, he does it gracefully. He was back up just as quick as anyone possibly should be, but Mike Kiedrowski was able to sneak by to take over the #1 position in the first moto. So the running order now is Kiedrowski out front, Jean-Michel Bayle running in the #2 position. Jeff Stanton is back in 3rd, 4th place, the property of Jeff Ward. Now, if it's anything that Jean-Michel Bayle hates, it's being embarrassed in front of his friends. Jean-Michel Bayle hates it when he crashes and he is passed, especially for the lead. So Bayle has the pressure on Mike Kiedrowski, but Kiedrowski refuses to crack. He's looking for as many points as possible out of this one, because the more he gets, the less he has to worry about at the season finale. he could win a pair of motos here today, then he would be in excellent shape to capture the crown with only a couple of motos to go. So Kwiatkowski pure concentration 100% of the way at this Steel City track. Behind Kwiatkowski and Vail, there were a couple of other riders that were doing just a little bit of business. That would be Jeff Stanton and Jeff Ward. Wardy got by Stanton, and Ward will end up in the number 3 position at the checkered flag. And the checkers are coming out. Kwiatkowski wins it. Jean-Michel Vail finishes second, Ward third, Stanton fourth. Todd DeHoot finishes in the number 5 position. Let's flash ahead to the end of moto number 2. The big number 6 on the motorcycle. Jeff Ward pumps his arm. He won the moto. He won the overall honors for the day. It gets no better than that. Jeff Ward putting one more in the record book. Here's what he had to say.
So make you think twice about retiring?
No, you know, I still know what it takes to win, and I've put in everything I had this year. It just wasn't coming together as easy, and you can tell when it's getting, you know, you're struggling, and I've been struggling, and I just don't want to prolong and tarnish my name as, you know, just keep getting worse and worse. So I think it's really good for me to win and just, you know, just step out with some pride.
Right.
Pride? Jeff Ward has plenty of it, and he goes out in style. The season finale, Budds Creek, Maryland, at Budds Creek Cycle Park. The final round of the 500cc National Championship Series. 11 points separate Mike Kwiatkowski and Jeff Stanton. What that equates to is this: if Stanton wins both motos today, in order for him to win the championship, Kwiatkowski would have to take at least 1/3 and 1/4. If Kwiatkowski takes 2/3 places, then it's all over. That's all he needs to seal the title. The way he's been riding, that should be a snap. Jeff Stanton out front in the early going. Jean-Michel Vail running second. Jeff Ward is third, and Mike Kwiatkowski is fourth. So the way the positions are stacked up right now, that is exactly the combination that Jeff Stanton needs in one moto in order for him to win the championship. Now, theoretically, if teamwork is going to be at play here, Jean-Michel Vail would have stayed behind Jeff Stanton, but there is no love, as we told you earlier, lost between these two riders, and Vail flashes by Stanton to take over the number 1 position. I assure you that behind them, should Mike Kwiatkowski need that spot that Jeff Ward has, Ward would readily move over and give it up. In fact, he has already done just that. He has dropped back off the pace to let Mike Kwiatkowski go and seek his fortune up front. While the fans look on and cheer, we're not sure who. We think it's just because they like to be on camera. Or maybe they were cheering that pass that Jeff Stanton put on Jean-Michel Vail. Stanton back in front, Vail running second. There's Kwiatkowski in third. As long as he holds on to that 3rd place, then he has the championship locked up, provided, of course, he can do it in the second moto. Jeff Ward just watching what is happening back in the number 4 position. Now coming up, oddity number 2 in this moto of the 500cc championship. Oddity number 1, of course, was when Jean-Michel Vail passed Stanton, and oddity number 2 was when Vail moved over and let Kwiatkowski pass to take over the number 2 position. Told you there was no love lost between the Honda teammates. Second moto, rain is coming down. Track is a quagmire. Doesn't matter. Stanton is going to win overall honors for the day. Kwiatkowski finishes 3rd in the moto. More importantly, Kwiatkowski wins the title. Here he is.
Pretty tough day. You know, I got a second the first moto. It just started raining, and then the second moto was just a mud bog out there, and I had a pretty good start, and then I fell twice, and I was back in the pack and didn't know if things were going to come together, but I just kept my cool, and I'm happy I got second and won the championship.
And with that, the 1992 American Motorcyclist Association National Championship Motocross Series comes to an end. Jeff Emig was crowned the 125cc champ. Jeff Stanton won the 250 crown, and Mike Kwiatkowski won the 500cc title. We hope you've enjoyed this look back at 1992. We'll see you again next year.